two big moves that the Celtics made this offseason. Three-way trade with the Grizzlies, getting Kristaps Porzingis from the Wizards and sending Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies. And then Jaylen Brown getting the biggest contract in NBA history. What were your thoughts on those two moves?
The biggest contract in NBA history, that happens every year. As the cap's going to go up, someone's going to get the biggest contract in NBA history. A lot of times you see these extensions and you can quibble with them. For Boston, I don't know what the other alternatives are. They're a championship level team right now. Is the back end of that contract going to look a little wonky? Maybe. The cap keeps going up, maybe not. But banners fly forever. They can't risk losing him because if he left in free agency. And one of the things that people don't understand is it's not even about the money sometimes. It's about the messaging. Even though the Celtics could have still paid Brown more than anyone else, they didn't pay him the most they could. So if someone else offers the most they could, even if it's less, he might be inclined to take that because the Celtics did. Going into the season with that hanging over their head and risking that, they couldn't really afford to do that. On the Porzingis thing, this is funny to say that because he's hurt already with a foot injury that's going to keep him out of the World Cup. But I like the gamble of the Porzingis trade. I think Smart has been slowing down. I think you mentioned Derek White. I think Derek White is a better basketball player than Marcus Smart anyway. It was sort of controversial for the Celtics to close games with White instead of Smart last year when especially has a more reliable jump shot and is comparable as a defensive player. I think Derek White is really one of the more underrated players in the league today. Still, despite having been in Boston for a year and a half, and then just giving them a kind of some different skill set up front and more depth up front, so that they can get to the playoffs with Al Horford fresh and healthy. Hopefully, get to the playoffs with a healthier version of Robert Williams. Hopefully, to get to the playoffs with a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, and then that gives them so many different options to match up against whoever they're going to play in the postseason. That I liked the gamble. I think that there are reasons I think that they would want to shake up their core a little bit because they've sort of found the same way to lose in the last couple of years in the playoffs, where 90% of the game or the games, they look like the best team in the NBA. And then there's those 10% meltdowns they have that cost them games, and those games add up. And then all of a sudden you're in a game 7, you get an injury early in the game and you're knocked out by a team you should have probably beaten in 5 games. Because you've given these earlier games away by kind of losing your mind down the last 6 minutes.
James Harden has been all over the place all offseason. Him and Kyrie Irving are like, they should be hanging out. I don't know why they didn't want to play and finish their careers in Brooklyn, because they're both morons. I don't know what's going on with both of these guys when it comes to their brains. Maybe they've been hit too many times to the head. Maybe they have CTE because they're both nuts. But this story with Daryl Morey, it's now starting to grow legs. And Daryl Morey was over there with the Rockets in 2007 when they decided to trade for him. And he gave him all the money. He made him a star. He made him a number one guy with the Houston Rockets. And now all of a sudden, he doesn't want to be a part of Daryl Morey. He doesn't want anything to do with Daryl Morey. And if Daryl Morey is the GM or a president or anything with that organization, he wants out of it. What is going on here?
Someone thought he was getting a big old contract or getting traded to a place where that was going to happen. And that hasn't happened because 29 other NBA teams have TVs, and they've seen that Harden, while still a great player, isn't the MVP level player he was a couple years ago. He's gotten hurt the last couple years. And I don't think there's any team in the league that was really anxious to back up the truck for a 4 or 5 year max contract for a guy who is probably on the downside. What ends up happening is Harden thinks he's got leverage to either get a move somewhere else or get a big contract, finds out he doesn't have that leverage because it seems like Houston may not have been interested in trading for him again. And the 76ers wisely, I think, were not super interested in giving him a longer term deal. And now he's sort of finding that the music stops and he doesn't necessarily have the chair he wanted. This is how he's chosen to respond to that. It might work, but I wouldn't be in a rush to give up a lot of assets to trade for James Harden right now. Now, where that puts you in Philadelphia's shoes, how much do you need just to move along and really return this team to being Joel Embiid's team completely? I don't know. That's a good question. But if Daryl Morey has shown anything, it's that he's willing to be uncomfortable, let situations play out. I don't think he's going to be bullied into making a quick trade.